Hello guys, Colin here. By far the most common theme that goes through my inbox is a question in the form of what's the best amp, pedal or guitar for X amount of dollars? Or, in essence, I have this amount of money, what should I buy? Now I am remarkably honoured that so many people consider me knowledgeable enough to assist them on this quest, but the truth is, there's no way I can simply give you a definitive answer tailored to you. And there's several reasons for this. Firstly, quite often people are looking for a secret holy grail of gear, a golden goose that has all the features, sounds amazing, and costs next to nothing. Now sadly, things like that tend not to exist. But most importantly, I don't know you. I don't know your existing gear, or your style, or what situation you're in, and all those things drastically alter what particular piece of gear would be best for you. To go through all these cases, ascertain this information, research the gear, and then give a dedicated response to each individual would be massively consuming of my time, and I think it far more practical that instead of giving tailored answers to individuals, that I give you all an idea of the questions and the considerations and the ponderings that you need to get this answer for yourself. Because hey, after all, you're the only one who knows what's best for you. So here's a checklist of things that you should consider when you're picking out your ideal piece of gear. Your budget is too low, always. Let's start off with the main problem you're going to have. Your budget is too low. Now, every single question I get on this features people totally overestimating what they can get for the money they want to spend. I learned this myself a long time ago. You always have to go above your budget to get what you want. Sure, you've set aside the noble amount of $400, but what you want is probably going to cost you $600. The reality is that musical equipment costs money, and largely you get what you pay for. Yeah, there's going to be some really high price tag stuff that isn't worth the money, and there's going to be some cheaper pieces of gear that punch well above their weight, but for the majority of this industry, the more you pay, the better it is. There really is no secret or shortcut. Now I know this is bad news for many of us, as musicians tend to be young and or poor, but honestly, don't rush this. Take your time to save up the extra money. Now it may take you a few months or maybe even years, but it'll be worth it in the end. Settling for equipment that you know doesn't do the job you want it to because it fits the budget you have today is false economy when you could well have that money later on to do it properly. In fact, I think setting a budget before you've decided exactly what gear you want is folly. Really, what you should be doing is looking at what gear is best for your situation, narrowing down your options, costing it all up, and then working towards getting all that money together. That's how I would approach this. How do you plan to use this gear? How you plan to use your new gear is going to have a big impact on what you buy. For example, if you're in a low level or a local band, you'll be travelling around playing lots of small pubs, clubs and venues which are usually tightly packed with low ceilings. You're not going to have a roadie to carry your gear, and you're probably not going to have the luxury of unloading right at the door. And changeover between bands is probably going to eat minutes off your set time. In such a situation, why the hell would you want to have a huge heavy 100-watt valve head? They are an absolute pain to transport, especially if the venue is up a couple of flights of stairs. They're way too loud for the size of venues you're going to be playing, and you're not going to have that large backstage storage area. So the more gear you have and the bigger it is, the more crowded the restricted space becomes, and that takes longer for you to set up your equipment, and as I say, that's going to eat time off of your set. Having a compact low wattage backline then is what you should be looking for. Ease of transportation and storage and volume levels appropriate for the venue are far more important than having that massive 100-watt beast, which, if you've only got the volume on about 1, you're only using 10 watts of anyway, and you're sacrificing a torrent at the bargain. Again, to keep with this scenario, is a high-end expensive guitar really what you want rattling around the back of your mate's car and getting dinged up by collapsing mic stands and other bands on the bill knocking it over? Maybe you don't gig and this is just something to play at home, and that changes the game again. Maybe then what you're looking for is a stylish modelling amp, which has all the built-in sounds and effects, and a very nice guitar that'll look fantastic on your wall while you're not playing it. Really, don't just look at a name or a brand when you're making this decision, but ask yourself, what am I going to use this for? One thing that I'm going to do should I ever start playing in bands again is downscaling all of my gear and probably setting up an inexpensive touring guitar that I don't mind getting a bit bruised. Now I've had to carry this Bagheera amp from the car, parked 3 streets from the venue while also holding a pedal board, a box full of cables and a guitar on my back. It's not fun, and when you're about to play a show, that's just hassle you can do without. Have you even tried it out? Honestly, get yourself down to a decent guitar shop and try out amps, pedals and guitars. Even if you don't know exactly what you're looking for just yet, you'll have some idea about the features and sounds you want to achieve. Take a look at all the options available, find something that kinda fits, and then ask to have a play with it. That'll give you the quickest indication of if you have your thinking right. Now, I've gone into guitar shops in the past thinking I wanted one thing, tried out the options, and then discovered very quickly that it wasn't for me at all. Also, don't be afraid to try out brands and gear that you haven't heard of. You might come across something very unexpected that you like. Once you've got the ball rolling and you've tried out some gear, go and talk to the staff there about the things that you liked and disliked about what you were playing through. Most of them should be knowledgeable enough to suggest to you other things in the shop that have similar features to those that you liked and tackle some of the issues that you were having. Playing through gear and having the opportunity to discuss your findings as you go along is a much better tactic for narrowing down your ideal piece of gear. Discovery is a pivotal part to this process. Remember, most people don't know what they want until they have it, and those that do think they know what they want often find that when they get it, it wasn't really what they wanted after all. Try as many things as possible and work it out step by step. Don't favour one area over another. If it's pedals, don't scrimp on the power supply. If it's an amp, don't scrimp on the cabinet. And if it's a guitar, don't scrimp on the strings, picks and the case. It's very easy to see one element as the important one, chuck all your money into that, and then have a compromise rig because the rest of it isn't up to standard. A good amp won't sound as good through a cheap cabinet. A good pedal is going to be plagued by a crap power supply, and a guitar really is only as good as the strings you put on it. Don't buy cheap cables either. Leave some money left over to get yourself some decent quality ones that are not going to crackle the moment you get them home. Sometimes it's the smaller parts of a rig that need the most upgrading. Give these overlooked elements some attention and you might find that they were the problem all along. Make what you have work for you. Now this might seem totally counter to the cause, but hear me out here. Making your existing gear work for you might be half the battle, and it could show you where your money could be better spent. Maybe taking some real time to retweak your amp settings, strip a few pedals out of your setup, and adapt your playing technique might be enough to show you that that full new rig isn't really needed. Revoicing your guitar and amp, using more of your volume and tone controls, getting more clarity out of your amp by reduction of bass, increase of mids, and a stark look at that gain control might be enough to spotlight elements of your tonal response you didn't even realise were there. Perhaps it's an upgrade to the valves that is required, not a new head. Perhaps modifying your boost pedal will be all it takes to tip your sound over the edge. Are you using your effects loop most effectively? And could you be swapping about your pedals in the signal chain? How about your pickup height and string action? They really affect the response and output of your guitar, so maybe those costly new pickups aren't needed. In short, make sure you spend lots of time treating your existing equipment to an intense session of tone searching before throwing in the towel and opting for something new. At the very least, this will give you a far better idea of what to look for when you're trying out new potential equipment. Go and watch reviews. You're on YouTube right now. Once you've finished here with me, go and watch some gear reviews. There are lots of very excellent gear reviews uploaded to this platform every single day. Some of them are very opinion based, while others delve right into the technology and specifics, so there's plenty of variety. I know not everyone's a fan, but recently I've been really enjoying the output of the Andertons YouTube channel in terms of the way that they compare and look at gear. Yeah, sure, it's more personality than it is science, but that opinion and reaction is still very valid in terms of working out if that gear is right for you. Watching reviews in this way has put me onto gear that I would not have known about, or perhaps even cared about, had I not watched the video. Now, I do a lot of my own gear reviews here on this channel, and I only ever cover things that I think are interesting or different, even if it's things that I wouldn't particularly use much myself. It's difficult to review gear that you're not invested in, and I think many of the reviewers here on YouTube are much the same. It's a passion for something interesting and different, or just damn good, that makes us want to show them off to the world, so there's a lot of real honesty and credibility in much that you'll see here. In conclusion, don't fall into the trap of thinking that there's a singular best for you, especially not on your tight budget. Take some time to explore new gear, not just the brands you know or the ones that your heroes are using. Really analyse your existing gear and make sure you can't make it work better, and if you do decide to upgrade, make sure you see the bigger picture and not just one specific piece of gear. Your sound is a synergy between all of your equipment, from the big things to the small things, and of course, how you're using them, your technique and your setup. Lots of small improvements may be just as effective, if not more so, than one big one, and ask yourself the difficult questions. How much is it that you personally need to improve, not just your gear? Hopefully this has been a helpful discussion on some of the things that you should think about when you're considering getting your new ideal piece of gear. And if you liked this sort of video, then you might want to consider hitting the subscribe button. I'll be doing a few more of these sort of philosophical discussion videos in the future, so make sure you're getting your notifications for that. Patreon's also there for exclusive secret stuff. All these videos are made possible by the generous donations of all my patrons over at Patreon. You'll be getting some excellent access to behind the scenes stuff if you go and sign up there and actively support me. All the links to my social media are in the description box underneath this video, and leave me a comment just with whatever you want to say. Anyway, that's all for just now. So if you guys want to keep it loud, I'll see you later.